Hi, welcome to NicheCraft. My name is Kassi and I'm your host, and today I am going to teach you how to make the diamond and squares granny square. So I really like this motif, and what ends up happening is that you make squares, and then as you put them together you create diamonds with the traditional granny square patterns and the solid granny square patterns here. All right, so what we're doing is we're making like an hourglass of the solid, and then if you were to turn it this way, it would look like an hourglass of the traditional granny square. What I really like about this is that when you work it together, all of the geometry just really looks beautiful. It looks very planned, and I'm showing you this in a blanket that I'm making right now. I just need to seam together the rest of the blanket. I've got half of it done. And you can make it with colors like this and even change colors a lot and everything, or you can make it just one solid color and it looks good either way. And I just really love the way that this looks, so I wanted to teach you how to do that. So we're going to zoom in and I'm going to begin my tutorial. Hi, and welcome to Granny Square Sunday. So I showed you at the very beginning what I am going to teach you today. So all it is a combination of what you've already learned on the traditional granny square and the solid granny square. All right, guys? So the difference is that you're going to be crocheting the traditional square on two sides, and you're going to be crocheting the solid on the other two sides. All right, this is a really easy pattern to do, but it ends up looking really fantastic. Before I begin, I want to remind everybody that I do have a giveaway going on right now, and it looks like it might close soon, so make sure that you find that video, enter that giveaway. All you have to do is watch the video to the end to find out all of the terms and conditions and all of that, and enter that giveaway, and you might be one of the winners. And speaking of giveaways, I will post a new giveaway tomorrow, okay? And I'll probably post it before I even pick the winner, so that you guys will have another one to enter, and it'll be full of a lot of really cool surprises. That said, if you are new here, I have lots of giveaways, and I also have a really robust amount of content. I post Mystery Box Mondays where I do mystery box unboxings, and I post a whole lot of different stitch tutorials, obviously a Granny Square Sunday and all of that. So you might want to go ahead and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell so that you won't miss out in any of those giveaways. All right, guys, so that's enough talk there. We are going to learn this Granny Square right now. Okay, so the first round is made the way that you would make a traditional granny square, okay? You make a slip knot, and you put that slip knot on your hook. Now, I'm using a 4-weight yarn with an eye hook, but I always tell people just use whatever weight yarn works for you with either the recommended hook or the hook that feels most comfortable to you. All right, so I'm going to zoom in again so that you can see this real clearly. All right, so I have that slip knot on my hook, and now I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, next I'm going to close this into a circle by I'm going to keep this loop on my hook, and I'm going to insert my crochet hook back into that first chain that I made. All right. Now I've got my tail and I've got my working yarn, right? I'm going to use my working yarn, okay? Just ignore that tail. I'm going to use my working yarn to slip stitch by pulling up a loop through that and then pulling it through that one also. So now I have a little hole that I can work into, and that is where we are going to place our first round. Okay, so here's the first round. Chain 3. This counts as your first double crochet. Next, you're going to double crochet twice into this ring that you've created. All right? My yarn's a little splitty, so bear with me. All right, next you're going to chain 2, and that creates the first corner. Next, we're going to create the next side by doing that granny square cluster, which is 3 double crochets into that loop again. I'm having all sorts of problems today, but I'm having a good day, so that's all that matters. All right, so now we're going to make our next corner by chaining 2. We're going to make our third side by doing that granny square cluster again, which is 3 double crochets. I'm just going to tighten this here. All right, now we're going to chain 2 again, and we have one more side to make. So we're going to do that granny square cluster one more time. This yarn is awfully slippery. All right, so we have that fourth side made. And now I'm going to chain 2 again, and I'm going to slip stitch, because this is my last corner there. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch just like we did before when we created that ring, by putting my crochet hook into the top loop of the first chain 3, pulling up a loop. And then instead of crocheting there, I'm just going to pull that loop through the loop that was on my chain. And now we are ready for round 2. All right, so we are round 2, and all you have to do is, for this particular side, we are going to chain up 3. All right. So this side is going to be our traditional granny square side. So we're going to do this the same way that we would do a traditional granny square. So what we're going to do is, after we chain that 3, that counts as our first double crochet. Next, we're going to go back into this corner space here, and we're going to place 2 more double crochets in there to count as our first granny square cluster. All right. We are going to chain 1, because we always chain 1 in between the granny clusters on each side. Now we're going to put 3 double crochets into the next side, which is right into that corner. Still, we just made this side. Okay, just because we're working into the corner doesn't mean we've made the corner yet. All right, so if you're following along, you should have 2 granny square clusters on either side of the granny square cluster from the previous row. All right, so now we are going to chain 2 and make that corner. Now we're working on the solid granny square side. So the solid granny square side is going to require a little bit different technique. What we're going to do is we are going to only put 2 double crochets on this side of the granny square cluster, okay? Next, we're going to put 1 double crochet into each one of these granny squares cluster stitches for a total of 3 more double crochets. All right, now that we're on the other side, we are going to put 2 more stitches on this side. And when I say that, I mean on this side of the granny square cluster for the traditional, or for the solid granny square. All right, next we are going to make a corner by chaining 2, and now we're going to make a regular granny square cluster on this side, because we are back to that granny square side, the traditional granny square side. Okay, you chain 1 between each cluster when you're working on the sides. Now I'm going to put another cluster, which is a group of 3 on the traditional granny square side. Next we're going to chain 2, and I'm going to put now 2 double crochets because now I'm working on that solid granny square side. So that works differently. Next I'm going to put a double crochet into each of the previous double crochet stitches. Now I'm going to put 2 additional double crochets on the other side of that granny square. And next I'm going to chain 2. Alright, and now I'm just going to slip stitch into this top chain here. And again, I just keep that loop on my hook. I pull another loop through, and then instead of doing anything else with that, I just pull that through that loop that was on my hook before. And now you can start to see now that we have the granny square hourglass right here, and we have the solid granny square hourglass on this side. All right, so I'm just going to get some more yarn out, and I'll walk you through the first 2 sides of round 3, and then we will meet back up and I will show you how to do round 4. All right, so we are at round 3. What you're going to do is you're going to chain 3. That is going to count as the first double crochet in your first granny square cluster. You go back into that corner space and you put 2 more double crochets into it to create that granny square cluster. All right, next you chain 1. You always chain 1 in between the granny square clusters when you're working on the traditional granny square. Chain 1 again, and put that last granny square cluster here in the corner. All right, so we're done with the traditional granny square side. We're going to make a corner now so we can turn and make our 3rd round of the solid granny square. We'll put 2 double crochets back into that corner space right there on before going into every single one of these double crochets from the row before. And we're going to go ahead and do that now. As you can see, I'm putting 1 double crochet into every single one of those double crochets from the previous row, and that is making it so that it is nice and solid, whereas on the other side you have these little separators in between the clusters. So now that I've come to the end of that, I'm going to add 2 more double crochets, because on the solid side we only add 2, and on the granny square, the traditional granny square side, we add 3. Next I'm going to make my next corner, then I'm going to crochet along the granny square side, adding 3 clusters right here, here, and here. I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to add 2 double crochets here, double crochet into all of these stitches, add 2 double crochets here, and then I'll meet you back for the 4th row. All right, see you then. Okay guys, so I've finished this 3rd round. I have chained 2 to make my corner, and I'm going to slip stitch into this chain 3, and again pull a loop through and then pull that loop through the one that was originally on our hook to begin with. And now we have the beginnings of a granny square half and half. So here we go again to chain 3. You're probably getting the pattern down by now. You put 2 more double crochets into that square to make the first granny square cluster for this side. And then you're going to chain 1 between each granny square cluster until you come to the next corner. And if you just go ahead and sit with me, I'll show you how to do the next corner, and then I'll let you guys do the rest on your own, and we can meet up at the end. Okay, so I've made 3 clusters so far. I'm on the 4th round, so I am going to end with 4 clusters. So I've chained 1, and that 4th cluster is going to go right here into the previous corner. All right, so we just made that corner into a side, so we are going to create a new corner by chaining 2. And on the solid granny square, we do the exact same thing as we have been on every other row around of the solid, where we go in and we put 2 double crochets then you put a double crochet in each one of the double crochets from the previous row. Then you make 2 more double crochets on this side, and then you will make your corner, and then do the traditional granny square, and then you're going to make your corner, put 2 double crochets here, double crochet into all of those from the last row, 2 double crochets again, and make your corner. All right, I will see you when we're done with row 4. All right, welcome back. So I am at the very end of this 4th round. So I am going to chain 2. And then I am going to slip stitch into this top chain from the very first chain we made. And that is as big as I've decided that I'm going to make my granny square. So I'm going to pull this big, pull this through, take my scissors and give it a snip. Pull that tight. Then I can weave it in underneath these loops right here, and I'll show you how to do that with a crochet hook, like so. And you can, it just split on me. You can weave that in as many or as few times as you'd like. My goodness, look at that. You can do this as many times or as few times as you like. Just know that it helps the work look nice and finished when you are done. And you can do the same thing with this one. I'm going to go ahead and snip this first before I do that. And I'm going to just go ahead and pull it up. How about just pull it up through here. Now you can also try to hide that tail by weaving it underneath all of these around. That's typically how I do it, but I just wanted to show you other ways to do that. This yarn is kind of difficult. So we've got that, and I guess I can just go ahead and go underneath these few stitches right here on the solid side and pull that through there. Then go ahead and snip it closer. And now those won't show. That's the wrong side. This is the right side. And we have the hourglass on the solid side, and then we've got the hourglass on that traditional granny square side. So you can make as many rounds as you like with this stitch, okay, or with this granny square. And what's really nice about it is, as you can see, when you put them together and you seam them together, it ends up creating, not only do you have these squares that you've made, but you also have the diamonds that are both going up like that and going across like that. And I just think that that's really nice. It really plays on geometry in a way that isn't too overwhelming. All right, and that's why I like this. So I wanted to show you which granny square we're going to make next week. So I was playing around making granny squares, and I made this. So we're going to make this granny square next week. It's one that I designed. The only difference between next week's and this one is that it's not going to be attached right here. I was just playing around when I was doing this final place, and I didn't know exactly how I was going to do this, so this isn't going to be there in next week's. It'll just be just like these other sides. But I think it's really pretty, and that it's just a nice simple flower. It's an 8-petaled flower in a square, and I think that would be great for those flowers that we're anticipating to see over the next few months, hopefully. I just thought, and another thing about this is that it is simple. It uses very simple stitches as well. Not certain if I'm holding that the right way. There we go. That looks better. Yeah, that's the right side. And again, this one won't be there. It'll just be, it'll be a loop like this. I just added that there when I was first designing it, but I won't do that next week. So this is what you can have to look forward to next week. I'm excited to show you guys how to make it. And again, remember to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so that you'll be notified of my giveaways, and make sure you find those giveaways and you enter them, okay? Thank you so much for joining me for Granny Square Sunday. I will bring you this one next week. Bye.